crazy. So we got game number 1 here for elimination semis. I agree heavily with staying on the Orion. I think that's what got you reverse 3-0. Don't break away from that. Like that's your current win condition.
Yeah, it's just always interesting when people have like a relatively large character pool, or like they have shown that they're gonna swap. Sometimes they'll start with like a specific character and then change depending on what happens. But definitely no faults in sticking with this Orion here for game number 1.
I'm curious to see who's going to win out in the spear matchup here between these two. Vey looked phenomenal with it. To be honest, the majority of the damage that was leading Kyler off stage was the spear, and then the closeouts were on the sword. It was almost always that consistent pace. But at the moment, though, very similar to that last set. Here's Hypka once again, looking so good at keeping people stuck in the air.
Going a little bit off stage, but okay, Pogo needs more. Doesn't hit it. Vey doesn't get the wall touch, though. And Hypka manages to avoid any touches that would allow Vey to chase dodge up, get that wall touch, and Hypka has that lead.
So that one was like a barely chalked off final loss that Vey took off stage, but it was still, in fact, finally somebody beating Vey off stage. It just barely missing that wall touch, but for Hypka, you got to be feeling really good because, like you said, Hypka has all that time to watch that previous set, and if you're taking that away from Vey maybe early on, you got to be feeling good going into the rest of it.
Yeah, that was definitely like a thought I had going into the set is like, well, 9 times out of 10, when you're the person who got to watch the last set, you have some information you can bring into the set when you play against them. But it's like, how much could you really take away from Vey in the offstage? Looks like Hypka found at least something that he can take away from Vey.
Good attempt to try and go for the nair, but once, Hypka just chilling, waiting it out. We actually didn't really get to see too much of the lance before. Like, it was used at a very minimal because Spear was just that good. So I'm curious to see how well the lance is going to be able to box out Vey, which so far doesn't look like either one of them really want to go into much. Actually, no, we did see it, but it was almost all signatures. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. There was no normals. There was no lights in that. It was just signature anti-airs.
No, but Vey manages to hit the dare. Hypka could not find that pogo. Downsig, you heard the charge up, but still, great damage advantage to Hypka, and a soft punish there. The recovery from Hypka will give him a big lead.
There's that consistency again. Like, even though the Spear D-Sig didn't lead to anything, it's that, hey, back off. And it's worked very well. That led to Vey wanted to go vertical again. And you just basically can't be above Hypka right now. That is a no-fly zone.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good tool to kind of like force your opponent to play a little bit more aerially. And then you're like, okay, well, I have Spear. I just want to go for downlights now.
Yeah, the conditioning has just been so good. And also, I agree with that heavily. Vey was swinging a ton. Get out of there. Do not try it, especially with Lance. It's not worth it. You could go for a nair occasionally. Oh, good dodge. Gets right over. Weapon toss down and immediately over to the Spear. Just get that damage on. It's not really worth it.
Punish opportunity. It's just going to be the side air. Not much else. Still not enough to KO here. Vey. Recovery. All right. We're into even stocks here.
I really like what I just saw out of Vey there, too. Vey has almost always gone off stage and tried to be super aggressive, and when things don't work, it's time to make a change, and Vey decided to stay patient, covered, immediately close that out. This is an incredibly close first game here. There's no rights to anybody taking it right now. It's dead even.
Yeah, this really could go either direction, and that first game can be so good for the momentum of a set because, of course, if you get reset, it just becomes a best of 3, but Vey goes in, dash jump there, still not enough to hit.
Vey's awareness to try and get a whiff punish is just so good majority of the time. Hypka, I feel like, is kind of getting checked a little bit on that patience that was happening before. Nice pogo to go ahead and beat out the D-Light. That won't be enough just yet, Duke, but it's getting pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, he had the pressure, but Hypka fought his way back towards the center stage, throws away the spear, goes for the recovery there. Was hoping that it would get the KO.
I think trying to bait into a similar option to what they did last time, but that's going to be a D-Light. Sair won't be enough just yet. I'm kind of surprised it didn't get it. This gives an opportunity for Hypka to maybe snatch this one away. Might be able to find a recovery from ledge. Waiting for... Oh, my God. Nobody pressed anything. Oh, my God. I'm so scared.
They both know how important it is to get this game number 1 here. This is the top 4 of the tournament for the Australian region. Downsig thrown out. Vey not in position to punish.
Oh my God, that recovery just misses. Another one just misses. Vey just barely missing out. And then what a play from Hypka, knowing after missing multiple times, you start getting into that situation where you got to make something happen. You're like, oh my God, I just barely whiffed 2 sword recoveries. I have to get something going. and Hypka saw fully through it. The one time you go off stage after always getting kind of checked down there, you reversed it. That was phenomenal. And just to show how close that game was, Hypka took more damage by 20. It was only a 20 damage differential, but Hypka was able to just sneak it out at the end.
Yeah, I really like the way that kind of played out was like Hypka started dragging Vey into that flow of Hypka, right? Like Vey started to chase a little bit more. You saw at the very end there, like went for that weapon toss and then tried to chase with that side air. And Hypka's like, all right, well, if you're going to keep chasing me, I'm going to throw out this gravity cancel, this kind of wake up tool and punish you for chasing. And we're going back into it here on the Western Air Temple as no character swaps on either side.
Yeah, this is one of the few times we're seeing people kind of run it back to back on stages too. We've almost always seen a tour of the stages between all of them along with the characters. So honestly, it was just so, it was as even as you can get. Nothing really changes in terms of that counter pick. I like it. And to be honest, Duke, this is kind of already giving shades of what could be one of those Game 5 last hit type games. This has been incredibly close.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been back and forth between the two of them, which of course makes sense given the kind of game and set count between the two of them. Perfectly even coming into this one, although Hypka now has that slight advantage. Offstage opportunity, sweat beating. He's in trouble as he dodges into the Ensig, and Vey with a massive lead here in game number 2.
Phenomenal on Vey, still refusing to let those situations go away. And you mentioned it pre this set, and it's really played out. You said, what happens when you have two completely opposing forces going up against each other? Well, they've actually just been shifting. It's like before, what was working so strong for one, they now go off stage more, and it's just been back and forth. This has just been phenomenal gameplay on both, and I love the adjustments. Right now, Vey, though, is trying to build on a lead, and it's looking pretty good. Now that Hypka has that spear, though, might start to shift it a bit. I feel like the spear is what's gotten most of the job done.
Yeah, definitely a big fan of Hypka's spear over the lance, but still needs to find more hits on Vey. Not even really in KO percent. That pogo, if you can deny the wall touches, yep, another pogo, and Hypka able to clean it up. I want to see him stick with the spear, but okay.
I thought
for a sec.
I think that's what we're going to see a majority of. And even with like the illusion of choice of maybe wanting to switch to another legend afterwards because like the spear is pretty much only the thing that's getting done, the kit on Orion is also just getting it done too. Like the Spear D-Sig has been phenomenal in terms of controlling space, so there's no real reason to change off Legend right now either.
Yeah, just stick with what is working. Don't fix what ain't broke, or something like that. I don't know. Either way.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Vey throwing away all
more
sorts of weapons.
WD-40 and duct tape. It'll get it done.
Yo, I saw a WD-40 cologne, but either way, Vey with the side air, whole different conversation. Vey with the side air, able to get that stock, and now Hypka is in a real bad spot.
That's for all the old heads who haven't played in a long time, need to de-rust before they get in the bracket. But right now we have Vey, who's currently at 2 stocks up to 1, but that is kind of a borrowed time, especially here with Hattori. One more good recovery read. Okay, not yet.
Keep going.
I feel like I took that away from Hypka for bringing it up. Like, it would have killed, but that ground pound actually just straight up will do it. So Hypka's almost always revenge KOing pretty quickly. There's not a lot of damage that gets applied.
Yeah, not a huge, I mean, really good from Hypka for keeping that momentum from building, because Vey had a really strong early stock, and Hypka's really kind of negated it, brought it back down, but still, Vey with the control, has the edge guard, doesn't get the second pogo that he wanted.
Right now, even just taking a peek at the graphs in the last game, it's going to be exactly the same in this one. Their survival rates have been pretty much on point together, but difference is Vey has the lead. However, Vey in a back. Oh my god, I like the attempt from Hypka. Heavy play, but it won't be enough to get the wall touch on the way back up. That one was one of those sneak plays. You tried to just catch something, and honestly, the story is continuing. I think there's no shot we don't go to Game 5 with this set. This has been as close as you can ask for.
Yeah, I think with how this one's going, definitely real big Game 5 potential. And again, I can't fault Hypka for that one because that was like a Hail Mary play and a half. He was just hoping that something would work out there, and Vey just not giving him any opportunity.
I mean, look at the damage numbers again. I had to like take a second look, and that time, outside of that last stock, the graphs, the survival rates were essentially the same. It wasn't that much of a time difference between somebody getting revenge KO'd and another small difference of damage. That one was about 40 that time. The one before was 20. They have been neck and neck this whole time.
Yeah, and this one, they're jumping right on into. Not too much opportunity to talk about the last one as we jump right on into game number 3. Same maps, same picks. They just want to play it out.
I'm here for it, to be honest. It's been so close. There's not too much to think about in between each game. It's like, look, we understand what's going on here. And for Hypka, the change factor, like the X factor you might need, might be getting this lance going, because so far the spear's been really good, but that hasn't done much. However, Vey has been on point with both weapons.
Nice air though. Hypka still holding on to the stock for a little bit here, but taking so many punishes. Now the recovery, still not quite enough. The high ceiling here on Western Air Temple, keeping Hypka alive, but he's not finding any hits onto Vey.
And light into weapon toss. Doesn't matter though, the recovery gets the job done again. That was a lot of winning interactions in a row for Vey. It didn't matter whether it was the sword or the spear, but we're going to actually switch back over to the sword here. To be honest, again, it really hasn't mattered what weapon Vey has used in this set, whereas Hypka's kind of just been deadlocked to the spear. It's working, but Vey has the option of getting both out.
Yeah, Vey kind of has more creative freedom, right? He can kind of mix it up, maybe go for a little bit more extra range or go for more combo potential. Nice interrupt there with that sideline as well. Meanwhile, Hypka trying to just deny weapons here, hoping that maybe an unarmed Vey is the thing that he can take apart.
That might be the only thing, but then all of a sudden the third weapon, fists, show up and you start crying for help. The way Vey's been playing, it's kind of looking like it. This is definitely the longest stretch that we've seen a stock not get revenge KO'd from Hypka. So Hypka might find it pretty soon. That is a borrowed time stock essentially sitting there, but Vey's finding the pokes where they need it. Can you close it out here? Maybe looking for the ground pound? Nope, just goes back on stage looking for a potential Sair. Nope, DC got the ledge. And Vey just, again, the defense has just been on point.
Yeah, I can't fault Hypka for backing away on that one, because Vey just was not giving him anything there. You saw a very safe movement back towards the stage, and Hypka could not see the opportunity. Hit him with the dare, hit him with the ground pound. This time, weapon toss not going to do it, and Vey safely, again, manages to get back. His off-stage movement is so good.
That was entirely a bait out of Vey. Vey knew full well that a swing was going to happen there, whether it be sidelight or D-Sig. It was going to be something, and Vey just jumped right over it safely. Vey is playing so good at reading exactly what Hypka wants. Finally gets caught, though, with a D-Light Sair, and that's going to put Hypka on the board.
Yeah, that's one thing that's nice about these platforms is sometimes they're really high and you can't D-Light them off of it. And sometimes they get low enough and in range, and Hypka took advantage of it. But man, he is basically a full stock behind. He needs to find so much safe damage if he wants to bring himself back into this.
It definitely can happen. I think back to the game that Hypka had against Chair earlier, where there was a pretty dominant 3-stock, but Hypka hasn't had many of those like big burst moments yet. And so far, it looks like Vey is not trying to let that happen. Hypka gets back on stage, but Hypka needs to be very careful with the stock.
He's trying to find that safe damage. Hasn't taken too many hits here. Weapon toss. Recovery not going to connect, and Vey might start getting itchy for camera. That second recovery was a risky play.
Hypka occasionally goes for it. It's worked a couple times before, but you're right. Very big risk. Hypka, however, hasn't really given up much damage, but there's Vey once again. I think Vey's caught on to where the D6s are coming out. That's the third one that I've seen Vey just straight up avoid, and it doesn't look like there's a panic avoid. He just knows it's coming.
Yeah, Vey's really, really good at kind of moving in and then moving back, right? We saw it in the game against Kyler Alice where he moved off stage, Kyler Alice dodges away, and Vey just backs away. This time he moves in towards Hypka and baits out that down sig and then able to get that KO. But this is cleaned up. Final stocks here in game number 3.
Yeah, if you told me at the beginning the way that set was started with Vey and that it would be 1 stock apiece here at this position with them being even, I don't know if I would have believed you with the way that Vey was playing, but it's just Hypka has this full stop mode. It's like, all right, look, cut it out. We're going to reset. You're going to slow down. But Hypka's just getting a lot of pokes, and it's been working, even with the straight hits that he's been getting hit out of.
Yo, imagine if the second stock and third stock Hypka started playing on the first stock Hypka, because that first stock is just so rough, and then second and third he starts to bring it back, but he's just playing from behind.
Yeah, 100% a comeback player. Like it does, like as the match progresses, just gets stronger and stronger. You need to find a way to do that at the beginning to just build a huge lead. But once again, the theme continues, and it has not changed. We are in last stock situation, essentially getting close to last stock last hit between these two once again.
Just a slight damage advantage, but Hypka's really good at maintaining that juggle. Vey gets past. Weapon toss. Over to the spear, doesn't hit the recovery, but Hypka misses the punish. Another recovery, still needs more. That high ceiling.
He's having some shades of that previous
Punish?
game. That is looking, there's multiple times where Vay is just barely missing. A lot of resources used though, but it's going to be Hypka who goes all the way up to the top. Weapon toss down. We go for the pogo. Do we get the read? No, does not get the D-light on the follow-up. And then gets straight up punished. I think Hypka was looking for a D-sig. Like, just stopped, paused in center, and was looking for something heavy, and Vay gave the biggest absolute no to that as they get that game and stop them from what was essentially their game to win. It almost became their game to lose.
A complete change up, really, from Vay, right? Like, so much of that movement from Vay was like this jumping thing where they were playing this kind of chicken of who's going to get that spear recovery. They were playing that game. And then Vay's like, okay, well, what if I just didn't? What if I just did something different? And Hypka just wasn't ready for it. You saw him just kind of deer in the headlights. Oh, wait, you're not just jumping for me to potentially try to get this recovery? And now we're going into game number 4. But like you've been saying, like I've been saying, there's a real possibility of this going to game 5 as Hypka changes it up to the Hattori.
I think there's no shot it doesn't go to game 5. Now, granted, with the Hattori, maybe might see something different. I think the biggest part of it is that the lance just is non-existent. It's just not doing anything at the moment, mostly just because the shutdown has been so good from Vay. But I think Vay just has that X factor about them. I know I've mentioned it a couple times, but like that extreme clutch factor of no fear moments. You need that as a player to reach these points in bracket. You need to believe you are that much better than the opposing player, that big read, that crazy attempt is going to work, and it continues to work for Vay. So Hypka needs to pull out an occasional, I think at least one stock of a play like that to try and make this go to game 5.
Yeah, just the fact that Vay is not beholden to one singular weapon is such an advantage over Hypka, because Hypka, I mean, still had some swordplay, but you saw the second he had the opportunity, swaps over to the spear, and that's been that comfort weapon. All right, there's the weapon spawn. Nice, grab it against a side sig.
I think I finally understand too why, like, the D-sig was essentially the only remaining factor as to why the Orion was staying. It got punished 3 or 4 times that game, because I still think that last play was essentially a thought behind it, and it did not work, or something along the lines of that. So it's like, okay, you figured that out. There's no reason for this anymore. I'm going to go to the Hattori.
Yeah, that is just basically a spear character with a stat line that maybe you'll like, but at the end of the day, Hattori brings that sword to the table that Hypka might need for that downlight recovery. Vay chasing with a recovery of his own. Again, high ceilings here on Miami Dome.
We're at D-Light Stare. Won't be enough just yet. Can Hypka finish it? Remember, this is a very scary situation against Vay, but the weapon toss wasn't enough to back him off from that dare.
Yeah, really good positioning from Hypka. Staying around, hit him with that down air weapon toss, trying to shove Vay away. Needs to get that extra credit because Hypka is on tournament pointing.
And again, even with this character switch, we are still in a very similar situation. Hypka has some of the best stay still, do nothing, and it seems like, why are they just not doing anything, right? They're literally watching where Vay is going, resource counting and seeing where their position is, and also just staying still sometimes scares you so much because you don't know what they're going to do. But Vay not playing scared too much right now. However, this could be a pretty bad mistake. Do we get more than one pogo? No, gets the wall touch.
It's so interesting the way that they both kind of play these neutrals where they're trying to bait the opponent to do something. Hypka's bait is to stand still and make you kind of like envision in your head some sort of panic situation. Vay kind of moves in and then moves away and baits those actions out of you. It's very interesting, again, this kind of diametric opposition between the two of them.
Yeah, but you got to be confident against that type of playstyle too, because Vay can just consistently run up and smack you in the face for doing something like that. But because of the fact that Hypka has scared people into these recovery runaways, especially with Spear, it becomes like that. But Hypka, this is a big opportunity here. Weapon toss over on the side. Do we get the pogo? Yes. Do we get another one? Yes. Do we get a third?
More. So much damage. There's another. Vay doesn't have the movement. Hypka with a big lead here. He's been playing from behind so often in this set, but this time he's the one with the lead.
Yes, that right there was the big aggressive play we've been waiting for Hypka at least once, at least one time, to make Vay have to respect that. Because now you just can't assume Hypka might stay at ledge and just stare at you anymore. Now you have to be worried that Hypka might go off, and currently Hypka is continuing to do that.
And yet it's still like very Hypka fashion to just be like, all right, I'm only going to use down air. Like the way that he's like, I only use spear recovery. It's like, I'm only going to use down air and it'll eventually work out.
Simplicity is key, and I know that's kind of been the theme of the night, but it's definitely a note to be taken, especially when you're fighting up against Australia. The way that they've been going about this has been very, very straightforward. but it's still working. And Vei's game plan of fighting people off stage isn't really working anymore. That was the main thing that was working for them, and now look at this. Vei's starting to lose these offstage interactions.
Yeah, lots of hits coming out from Hypka, and Vei forced to back away. Both of them throwing out those neutralites. Ensig doesn't hit. Hypka is finding more. Vei struggling to clean up this stock here, but there's still another one behind it.
Vei looking for one more Sarah to close it out. There we go. Nice tracking of where that recovery was going. So the question sitting is only to be answered by Vei. Do we see a game number 5 here, or does Vei shut it down to 3-1 to get that matchup against Doggo, one set away from potentially getting a rematch against Asmodee? That depends if Hypka shuts it down. That ground pound, not enough just yet.
No pogo. Vei does get the wall touch here, backs away. Gonna go in with the side light, but you saw the empty jump, that hop, that bait to follow the movement, and Vei burns the dodge. Hypka gets the recovery, and we're going to game 5.
Y'all are literally gonna see it because I know they clipped it. As soon as I saw that empty jump, I flew that direction. I got so scared just from the empty jump. I was like, oh, you're gonna get recovered, and there it goes. Very similar to the platform mix-ups earlier. Watch this. Going up, empty jump makes you get scared. That right there is very similar to the staying still on the on just center stage. But thinking back to the Enigma match, every single time they were on high platform, stayed still, maybe occasionally jump towards them to make them go high, burn one resource. All your resources gone. Yay! Now the game's mine. Hypka has just been so good at that. And what we kind of thought might happen from game number 1 has now transpired. We have reached game number 5 in this set.
Yeah, you could not ask for more between the two of them. So incredibly even, such different play styles, yet it kind of works together to make this wonderful symphony of gameplay. And we've now got game 5. Could not ask for a different map because, of course, it's got to be Western Air Temple. Hypka sticking with the Hattori.
This is where the fight began. It's where the fight will finish. We are here and see who gets to be the one to go into that final 3, those coveted positions to continue this incredible run they've been on so far. And there's still... The win for this is to fight Doggo into potential Asmodee. So it only gets even more difficult from this point.
Yeah, they're hoping for a podium. This is a battle for the podium, and it is going down to the wire. Again, 3 stocks left on each side, but this is game number 5, and Hypka dancing around a little bit, trying to play the soft platform game, doesn't punish the whiff recovery. Sidelight misses. Vei throwing out more recoveries, and Hypka's got the stage control, but has yet to get too many hits on the Vei for a hot minute here.
And either way, with the way this ends, dude, is going to be phenomenal for both their PR positions and just in general for their stat lines, because we got Hypka at number 6, Vei at number 10, sitting here at what could be, at minimum, a guaranteed top 4. This is, wow, they are both perfectly in orange. Nobody budging. They are so passive, but there we go. I feel like Hypka's just feels more confident in going for big plays now, and just missing out on the pogo on the last one. That's going to allow Vei to get back on. Doesn't get the follow-up nair, though.
Yeah, that was an interesting option from Vei. You don't see too many sword players go for downlight nair. Usually it's like downlight side air, downlight dare, downlight recovery. Those are like the big 3 options. I'm not sure if that was just like a little bit of a flub, but either way, still very real possibility. Just like a downlight recovery could even this one up.
We said it before. Once these game 5 situations come in, I mean, it's happened to Hypka twice. Yeah. You get to this spot and you start getting really stressed. It's way easier to get misinputs because you're just trying to stay calm. But we're at 2 stocks apiece. I mean, we're gonna be on last stock. It's gonna be last stock game 5. I am so looking forward to seeing who wins this set. It has been so close.
It has been back and forth. Even when one of them gets a big momentum lead, immediately the other one is able to bring it back. And you see these trades happen. Vei chasing forward, doesn't hit the nair. Hypka responding again, the chase. Now the recovery, but the ceiling is so high on the Western Air Temple. You got to be an airbender.
It's true. And as soon as the advantage was done as well, immediately goes to the weapon shift. Keep the weapon toss out, make you have to go to the left, go get in, continue your control of the game. Hypka is just so good at understanding, all right, my turn is over, but I'm going to make sure that you don't get a good turn for a good while. As that Seer comes through, won't be enough just yet, Duke, to go ahead and close that out. Okay, oh, never mind, I'm a liar. That was enough.
Yeah, just enough to deny. You saw, I mean, Vei burned a little bit before getting within side air range, and Hypka was able to finish off that stock, and now Vei playing from behind, wants to take this to final stocks, but Hypka's got some health to play with here. And again, if Vey is relying on those vertical KOs, it's going to be tough.
And another situation, too, where Hypka basically asked to be put to the task of making the right decisions to make a comeback while being behind in the set. And now what could be, not a reverse 3-0, but another set where Hypka might be able to get a closeout after being behind many times before from a super aggressive player to start. And they have essentially made Vey play to their pace here in Game 5.
Yeah, really changed up the way that Vey's been playing compared to the last set that we just watched from Vey. Again, these weapon tosses trying to open up Hypka, trying to bait an action out. The recovery, again, that vertical not going to work out too well for Vey.
Vey could just finish this without losing this, like pretty much taking any more damage right here. That will kind of put a bit of fear into him, but doesn't have enough to really chase. Misses on that recovery too. Hypka staying grounded, just needs to get some single hit trades, anything to build this damage up.
Hypka has not been finding those hits as Vey finds the recovery, and again, it is back to even. It is so close between these two. I'm surprised their PRs are not closer.
To be honest, same. And honestly, there's really no world where, even on an educated guess, that just after seeing that Game 1, that you don't see this last stock Game 5 happen right here. It was predicted from the start, and it has played out exactly how we like to expect. And Hypka doing just what they need, but does get smacked away by the dare, but nothing really comes out of it. Good job getting the reversal. You're going to get to the weapon fast enough. Yes, they do.
Sword v Sword. Vey with a little bit of a damage deficit. Hypka with a nice GC downlight goes for the recovery, not going to KO, but puts Vey in that spot. And there it is! The N-Sig, and Hypka closes it out 3-2.
Question, isn't that the same thing that Hypka did to close out the set against Chair?
I know that Hypka did it.
Yeah, it happened at least once.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain it was the same play to finish it on the left specifically. But there is Hypka doing it once again, everyone. Even when it seems like everything is done, even when it seems like they've been figured out, they've been struggling to get openings, there were multiple times where we said, look, I know Hypka's losing, but we see some solid plays that are coming out. There's some solid defense that's happening, and it's a best of 5, so it's not over yet. And Hypka did it twice. That is 2 times in a row now where Hypka went into a deficit and was able to